Hello and welcome to Top Contractor School Podcast, where we are dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but to create a lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy here, Director of Learning and Development at TCS. Joining with me today is Mr. Cam Roberts. Some of you probably know his smiling face. Cam is the owner of Laser Pavement Solutions and the host of the podcast Stripe It Like It's Hot, which I love that title. By the way, Cam, I think I've already told you that, but just in case I haven't lately.
Thanks, brother.
Where do you want to get started here? So, some people know you, some people don't. So just give us just a tad bit of background on your story and why or how you got started in pavement and striping. Like, and you do more
Sure.
too. So you could talk about the winter stuff that I hope I know we're out of. I don't know if you guys are out of it yet, but how did you
We
get
do
involved in
often
all
get,
this?
yeah, we do get snow in early April sometimes, man.
Oh, golly.
It's a choice to live here.
Yes.
Um, I I mean, how did I get started? I'll go way back just give you the 2 minute version, I guess. I didn't exactly, I wasn't Gary V, so I didn't go around like selling lemonade all the time. I mean, I did little things like a normal kid, but honestly, when I took my first full-time job, like I was I was not who I am today. Like I was just working in a maintenance job at a mall, shopping mall. And when I took that job, I didn't know anything about anything, like, which was a great job to get. Facility maintenance will teach you some like, blue collar skills very quickly. So like even basic stuff like drywall, electrical plumbing. So anyways, while I'm there, I start learning these skills and I started like actually kind of falling in love with learning how to do stuff. And that kind of led me to like, I'm a nice, polite Canadian guy, so a lot of the tenants at this shopping mall would see me buzzing around the mall, fixing stuff and repairing floors, and then they'd like tap my shoulder and say like, "Hey, Can you come fix some stuff inside our store?" And so that kind of led to, a small renovation side hustle I would do. That led to me starting a commercial janitorial company, and this entrepreneur thing just kind of just grew. So the striping, I guess it started because while dude, I was like 20, I think it was like 21. Um, I was not the maintenance manager yet. I was just a maintenance guy. And I remember they tried, like, it was a small town in northern Canada. Eric, like, you should see this place. It's pretty special where I grew up. It's awesome. Um, there was one guy in town who painted parking lots, and we happen to have the biggest parking lot in town. So when you have one option, supply and demand, uh, as I like to say, this contractor knew he was the only option in town and he used it to his advantage. Not even so much on price gouging. He was just like not a great person to deal with.
Mm.
So the story I always tell, I got to tell, is super quick, but I didn't believe this until I saw it happen. This guy who painted parking lots my boss told me like every spring he comes in and he acts like a total jerk. And I was like, dude, there's no way a contractor would do that. Like, well, I watched it. He came in like April when the snow's melting. He
Mhm.
came in April. He swung the door open to the office. I was in there. And you could just tell, like, he's got a wife beater on and a gold chain, and like the cigarette had just left his mouth, Eric. Like, you could just tell. And he doesn't say hi to me or my boss. Doesn't even acknowledge me. He doesn't say hi. He literally says, "Are you guys gonna paint your parking lot this year or what?" Like, I'll never forget it.
Wow.
And even at 21, I was like, that's the sales pitch? Golly. So that's why I started striping 7 years later. Because I was like, even at 21, I was like, there's no way this could be the only, there's got to be room for more than this guy. Because this guy sucks. Like the
Yeah.
work was good. No problem with the work, but just the customer experience was like, holy Hannah. So my boss would end up hiring a company 3 hours away just so he didn't have to deal with him.
Oh my
Right.
goodness.
So that's why I started.
Wow. Wow. And so, you started, what was the moment you knew? And I think this is important for like, especially like the contractors that are just getting started in TCS or thinking about getting started in TCS. And sometimes we need to remember this too, like as business owners. So this is I'm kind of framing this question up a little bit for you. What was the moment you knew you were meant to build something of your own?
Well, I've never been asked that. So give me a second while I think about it. I know what started me to like actually start the business. So I don't know if that's the same thing as what you're asking. Uh, I'll
Sure.
start there. Anyways, I chopped
Yeah.
my fingers off on a table saw. Yeah.
Which is a very interesting story. Why don't you listen?
Sure. So for those, if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see it. So yeah, oops, sorry. I shortened the tip of my thumb, so I got a little shorty there. And then this finger's got pins in it. She moves this way, but she doesn't bend. And then this finger, it's all messed up. It's got like a fake knuckle in here. I got to go actually get more work done on this. Maybe it's a good thing I brought my crappy webcam today so you can barely see it. But yeah, I was in the glass industry and I had an accident. I was off work for 5 weeks. And by that time, I was 27 years old. Like I didn't want to sit around, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what started me while I was literally at home with this giant bandage on my left hand. I remember telling my wife Robin, like, I think I'm going to start a parking lot line painting company. And to her credit, our wives, Eric, like they're
Yeah.
awesome. She basically supported it. And we had two kids and no money and like all the like it was our savings for me to go buy my first striping machine. But
Yeah.
she's like, I trust you, right? And so I did. So later that summer I started. So if that's the moment where I made it my own, I guess that was it. Was sitting
Yeah.
around with a bandage on. But that being said, I mean, I guess my hesitation in answering it is like, dude, there was no plan to be where I am today. It was just let's see if I can stripe parking lots and make money.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is good, and I think we all need to remember that, right? Because a lot of us, the stories that run, especially through TCS, there are a lot of stories like that. My own, it was
Yeah.
just like I decided to walk out of a company, and I never looked back. It was that defining moment. I can't even do the math on that now. That was 98, 99. Just like I'm done. And then it was like, well, that wasn't a great decision. I didn't have a backup plan, right?
You're
So
unemployable now,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
basically. Right, yeah, yeah.
And I just think it's, you have to remember those times. Like I talked to a lot of the contractors, and sometimes we have some difficult times, and it's really not, if we remember the times where we started, it's really not as difficult as the time we started, where we had to drain our savings to get our first striping machine, right? Uh,
A different kind of hard. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's always good. So what, through this adventure, uh, what are some of the lessons that you've learned, like wins and failure wise?
How much time do we have? I mean, uh, well, let's start with positives, I guess. What are
Mm-hmm.
the wins? The wins are, yeah, I mean, I say it kind of jokingly, but like I am unemployable now. I can't really imagine. It's not because I'd be belligerent. It's just this is my domain. Like I found what I'm supposed to do, right? Which I'll give you a little plug is only validated when you take assessments like the predictive index, like what you do, and you find out like, you know, on paper the kind of person you are. And I think for long time, I just chose not to be that person, even though I'm
Yeah.
genetically disposed to be that person. So that's a win. My family has benefited from it. I mean, I've also put my wife through a lot of agony and torture, but again, I'm stupid fortunate because she supports it regardless. But just the flexibility, like, dude, I don't have to worry about taking my kids to school or, getting like, I just do that, you know. If someone's homesick, I can just go pick up the kids. It's like that's probably the big ones. And then the third consequence, again, when I started this striping company, Eric, there was no plan to take over, a market with striping. Like it was a side hustle. But now, there's 15 people here and we'll float up a little bit more in the summer. And The opportunity that I've been able to have, not giving people employment, because that's not how I view it. I view it as the opportunity to have a structure where people can operate in the domain and in the way that they want to operate. So basically, we've Laser Pavement is just the vehicle to get the people who work here to where they're trying to go in life. And
I
that's
like it.
it's pretty sweet. Like I'm not great at it. Like not per, we had a pretty fiery meeting this morning, myself and an employee in a good way. Like it's brutally hard, but those are the wins. Is like if people, the expression I use here is drink the Kool-Aid.
Mhm.
So like, if people drink the Kool-Aid and buy in and realize that, what we're trying to do is actually not just crank out money for ownership. It's actually to be the vehicle for you to get to where you're going. That's pretty rewarding. And then there's, 17 million losses along the way that happen and
Mhm.
near bankruptcies and angry customers and employees rage quitting. Like, yeah, there's always things, right? But in the grand scheme of things, like it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. And I feel like the sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be.
Yeah. I did get to face meet your new salesperson yesterday. She was
Awesome.
on the call, just like a sidebar. Yeah.
She is my nickname for her is HSM, heat seeking missile. Yeah, she is she's doing phenomenal, man.
I like it. I think she'll do well. Um, so you went from striping to paving?
Yeah, yeah. So 2018 is when it started. It was just striping, basically right up until 2022. And we're not in a big market, but
Yeah.
we just took over for striping, right? But now we've expanded a lot more into pavement maintenance. That's the MO of this company.
Yeah.
So yes, we can subcontract some paving. We don't have paving equipment. We don't have, there's no paving division. You know, we have a very small market of some subcontractors that we could work with.
Hmm.
But a lot of crack seal, a lot of seal. Well, we're trying to push a lot of seal coat, which isn't common up here.
Yeah.
But just, dude, leaning into like the things we're really good at. Like we are the striping people up here. The company used to be called Laser Line Painting, and that's what everyone knows us as, is the painters. And like, yeah, we didn't get distracted. I was very disciplined, even though I wanted to chase shiny objects and the woman in the red dress. I didn't. I stayed committed to the striping, and it's done well.
And then when did you add all the snow removal and all that?
Right. The thing I swore I would never do. Yeah. Can I tell you the 2 minute story of why I did it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good grief, man. So I hired my first business coach in 2020. Um, Towards the like midway through the season. It was probably like July, August. Because I was, I'm a founder who doesn't know what he's doing and way overbooked and the schedule's packed and I'm allergic to hiring people and I'm terrified of everything. And the way I described it is just decision fatigue. Like I was just you
Yeah.
make every decision growing a company and revenue was getting to like $250,000, but basically with just me and I'm like, I'm tired. This is hard. So I hired a business coach and that's one of the first things we worked on was like, he's in North Carolina, so he's trying to understand the climate here and the season and the pavement business. He's not a pavement guy. And he just asked me, like, what do you do in the winter? And I was like, nothing. And he said, well, I presume it snows a lot up there, right? And I was like, yeah, 74 inches is the average. Yeah. And he's like, well, how come you already have this CRM and this book of business with people who have commercial parking lots. Why would you not, just give them snow removal? And I proceeded to give him like a 5 minute rant of like why I think snow removal is the stupidest thing in the world. I absolutely hate it. It's a dumb industry that's entirely weather dependent. If it doesn't snow, you're hooped. If it snows too much, you're exhausted. I get a headache when I operate equipment. I don't want to deal like just I gave him the whole nine, right?
Hmm.
And he, to his credit, he listened. But I kept coming back to the same thing. It's like, Mike, like I don't want to operate equipment, man. Like I'm tired I've been striping my face off all summer. I get headaches in a skid steer. I don't want to do it. I don't want to work at 2 in the morning and go plow snow. Like if I had to, I would. And he kind of just said like, well, he said two things. He said, number one, you don't have to be the guy in the skid steer. You know that, right? I was like, no, I never thought of that. But the second thing he told me was like, he asked me a question. Actually, Eric, he said, what makes laser laser? Like, what is the thing? Why have you grown this company from zero, literally like I was striping out of the back of my minivan when I started to like $250,000 in revenue, needing like growing. Like what, how did you do that? And I gave him like a fluffy answer because I don't like to talk about myself. I basically just said, well, like I love people. I solve problems. They trust me. And, you know, I think the market here, I remember telling him when it comes to snow contractors, most of the snow contractors just suck. And, but yeah, I've just kind of got to where I am by not sucking and answering the phone and solving problems, right? And he said something that like I still think about this man. I like it changed the way I think about business. He said, if everything you told me is true and the market where you are is starving for reputable contractors to do a service, and you're telling me that you are a reputable contractor who has built your business already doing services very closely linked to this snow thing, which you swore you'd never do, you're doing your market a giant disfavor by not positioning yourself as the solution provider in a market where there is none. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Basically, not basically, he said, if you don't do snow and you just sit on your butt for 5 months, like you can do that, but like think of how many customers you're going to be letting down who now have to go to your competition because you chose not to.
Mm,
And I was
it's
like,
a good frame
dang.
up.
So that started snow.
Yeah. That
We got
started
going on it
so.
very quickly. Yeah, the first year was just like, dude, I had a half-ton pickup truck at that point, so I rented a one-ton pickup truck. They managed to put a snow blade on it, and we just first year lost a ton of money because I didn't know what I was doing, but stayed committed. And 2 years ago, it almost outpaced our revenue for the pavement division. It grew very fast.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Crazy good. Well, you're all
yeah.
about brand, right? I think you've done a pretty good job from what I can see with brand, especially like with your podcast. I mentioned it earlier, Stripe It Like It's Hot. I like the name, but you've done that. That's something that a lot of contractors wouldn't just rush to do, right? And I think you've been pretty consistent with it. Um, what help kind of help the audience with your decision to do a podcast and why you believe it's important?
I mean, I kind of just started because that same business coach guilted me into it, which is not a good reason, but it's partially true, right? He said like he had a very consistent podcast, and he's like, there's no line striping podcasts out there. And I was like, no, I don't even think there'd be a market for one. Well, it turns out there's a market for anything. Yeah. So I mean, that's half the reason. I'd say the other half, the reason why I started, the other reason why I started was, I tried to look into the future a little bit. Like, if I start this podcast, even though I feel very insecure about it because I've been doing this thing for 3 years, and I know people online who've been striping for 3 decades,
Yeah.
which he coached me through as well and said, they haven't started, you can. I was kind of looking into the future and thinking, well, it might open some doors for me in the industry, which is a good thing. I don't know what doors. And well, I was right about that. Like it's brought me to some awesome opportunities and people.
Yeah.
It was not intended to make money. It was just a podcast, but now it's a separate entity that actually produces money through various means, sponsorship, coaching, things like that. Um, but I would say, for the if there's a contractor listening and they've kind of thought about it, one of the cool ancillary benefits of it, Eric, and I'm sure you've probably seen this too, is like when your customers see that you have a podcast about the thing that you also are trying to sell to them, I can't really think of a more punchy way to signal to your market that, oh, I take this seriously. I am an industry professional, right?
That was perfect, that ending there. I think for the contractors to understand that. Like and I think that's I wouldn't have said it that well, Cam, but I think for me, because when we decided to do podcasting here, I was just like, oh man, I was kicking and screaming. It's like, wow, like a lot of cool stuff comes out of it. A lot of cool people you get to meet, a lot of things you get to learn. But yeah, I mean, to say to your audience, yeah, I'm here, I'm serious about doing this. This is what I do. I think that, to the contractors out there, That is very good information. So I appreciate that.
Can I tell you one funny thing?
Yeah.
It can go the other way too. Like we literally had one of our snow customers had an issue and we're resolving it. Operations is
Yeah.
all over it, but just like, a little bit of property damage kind of thing that we didn't know about. And they actually cited one of the YouTube videos. It wasn't a podcast episode. It was like this company also put out YouTube content, and they're like, "Hey, we noticed that the company owner recently put out content about keeping customers happy. So we feel like this is a good opportunity." So it gives you no place to hide, bro. If you talk about how like your industry, like I think it's a good thing because I was like, I respected that. I was like, hey, we got a fan. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Hadn't
Yeah.
heard that one yet, but yeah, good stuff. And it keeps you from being that guy that you first ran into when you were 21 years old that just comes in. You're
I
gonna
try
paint
not to
your
be him.
yeah.
You know,
Um,
paint your lines. Yeah.
yeah. So one other question about the podcast: favorite or most surprising guest moment on the
Ooh,
podcast?
surprising. Well, I mean, we're pretty tame. No crazy surprises. As it pertains to sales, actually, there's one that jumps to mind. I had the awesome privilege of getting connected with a mentor of mine in the snow removal industry. He does other work as well, but he had he was a partner in a very successful snow company in Boston. We went to a couple of their training sessions in the States. I got to speak with him last year at Pavex. He was one of the guests on my podcast about a year and a half ago, and he said something crazy. We were just talking about sales specifically, and that's what his area of expertise is. He's a sales professional, he's a sales coach, and I don't, in the course of the interview, he asked me like, why do you think you're good at sales? Because I told him like that's my jam. I don't want anything to do with operations, man. Like you put me in front of a schedule and say fix it, like I'll make it 15 times worse in 10 minutes. Like that's not me. Um, so he asked me like, well, what makes you good at sales? And I said, well, that's easy. I love people, which is true, right?
Yeah.
I love people. And he says, well, I hate people and I'm a great salesperson. And I was like, this is on the recording. I was like,
Yeah.
say what? Like, because that's what we all think, right? Like, if you want to be a successful salesperson, you got to be super empathetic, super people driven, love people. He's like, no, dude, like customers drive me nuts. The reason why I'm a great salesperson is not because like I'm that empathetic. I'll never go golfing with my clients, but they know me as someone who is ruthlessly committed to the solution, regardless of their feelings. And that draws me to a certain number of clients and it
Yeah.
might push a certain number away. But he's like, you don't have to like love people the way you do, Mr. Touchy Feely here. Like, and that, yes, it was just about sales in particular, but the reason why it struck me is like I've talked to a lot of business owners, and I'll bet you there's some in TCS. You've probably talked to
Yeah.
them already, Eric, who are like, "Oh, I'm not a sales guy." Just like I said, I'm not an ops guy. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't like sales. Well, I what he said challenged me to think about things in a different perspective. Like sometimes the biases we have, even against ourselves, like you could love people and be a terrible salesperson,
Mm-hmm. Good.
right? So that was the moment where I was like, wow, smart guy. And that's truthfully the other half of the benefit of having the podcast is you get smart people that come on and you learn from them.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. You ready for the rapid fire round here?
Hit me.
All right. Quick answers. I think what I got one, two, three, four, five. Okay. Here
Go.
we go. All right. First one, Cam. Favorite tool or piece of equipment?
Anything Milwaukee. If it's red, let's go.
All right. Best book you've read recently?
I know it's rapid fire, but that's torture. 6 months ago, or sorry, 9 months ago, Sales Management Simplified.
Okay, good book. Morning routine go to.
Morning routines are generally overrated.
Okay.
Uh, get to work. Reduce the time. Here's the go-to. Reduce the time frame between like when you need to work and working. If it's a work, don't do a morning routine like sacred ritual. I think those are dumb.
All right, good. Most used app for your business.
Most use app. would be oh, we recently got on one crew, so I'm gonna say it's probably one crew right now.
Gotcha. One thing you wish you knew 5 years ago.
Take the chances faster.
Oh, love that one. Love it. Love it. Love it. For those of that aren't in the TCS community, where can people find you? Follow you?
Everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere. I say that like I don't mean like I'm a celebrity. I just mean I'm all over LinkedIn. I've been a little quiet in the last 2, 3 weeks. Just we've been really growing some process. But find me on LinkedIn, Google my name, my link tree's on there. You can listen to the podcast. Just so you know, it's not just about striping. Like
Right.
that's how it started. We actually bring on intelligent people, and it's meaningful and value driven. So podcast. But yeah, if people want to get in touch with me, LinkedIn is probably the best way.
All right, very good. And then any final words of encouragement or challenge to the TCS community?
To the TCS community specifically.
Yeah.
Well, how about I pick one for myself and then I'll project it onto everyone else.
Okay, very good.
We're all in business. We all know the struggles. We all know it's hard. Don't worry about trying to make it look like you got your crap together. Tell people what's hard and they will help you.
All right. Good stuff. Love it. All right. Thanks, Kim. Are you coming back on the TCS podcast soon?
The moment I get the invite, I'm
All
there.
right. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for today of the TCS podcast. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.